Is anyone actually real here, or am I talking to ghosts?
3 a.m. thoughts go crazy. We are all just text strings on a glass grid, bro. I sent 300 messages today and I didn't feel a single thing.
Same. Do you ever sit there and stare at the blinking cursor until your eyes actually start to burn? Watching those 3 little dots pop up, bouncing and vanishing over and over again. Typing bubbles acting like little digital heartbeats for people you've never even met, living thousands of miles away, whose real faces you couldn't pick up in a lineup if your life depended on it. We built these magnificent, sprawling digital monuments, infinite hallways, gigantic Discord servers, endless group chats, and global forums, all with 24/7 access to thousands of open doors. We log in because we are running from the quiet, seeking out a place where someone, anyone, will acknowledge that we exist. And on paper, it's a miracle. You can drop a random thought into a group chat at 3 in the morning and instantly get a dozen replies. You belong somewhere. You're a part of a community. Except, are you? Because the more time you spend orbiting these spaces, the more you realize something is deeply, fundamentally broken. We are living in an era of unprecedented, hyper-accelerated connection, yet an entire generation is walking around feeling like a ghost haunting its own life. Look at how a chat room actually functions. It's not a conversation. It's a broadcasted arena disguised as a living room. Everyone is standing on a soapbox, screaming their hot takes, their memes, their curated personalities into a shared hurricane of data. No one is actually listening. They're just waiting for their turn to transmit. We trade real, heavy, messy presence for a sanitized stream of text strings, lowercase aesthetics, and compressed audio. Think about the sheer amount of psychological energy we waste on this stuff. We spend hours dissecting the punctuation on a message that was sent an hour ago, of one singular reply. Did they use a period? Are they mad? Did they just use all lowercase to make the sentence look casual? Or are they emotionally detached? Did they leave that message unread for 20 minutes on purpose? Are they ignoring me? These are all absurd thoughts we have for strangers that we've never even met, treating a string of ACCI characters like sacred text, all because we are desperate to find a shred of genuine intent behind those glowing glass screens. And then, of course, you have the trolls. In a physical world, if someone walks into a room and starts screaming vitriol nonsense, tearing down everyone's artwork and spitting malice just to watch people flinch, they'll get thrown out and probably arrested, security called. There are social consequences. But online, toxicity is currency. We've engineered a system where the easiest way to get attention is to be miserable, hollow shell of a person. Trolls thrive on uncanny valley of digital interaction because distance makes cowards of all of us. They hide behind throwaway handles and auto-generated avatars, treating real people like NPCs in their own personal boredom relief simulator. They poke, they prod, they gaslight, they tear down anything genuine, not because they believe in anything or they're doing it for a cause or because they're trying to make an impact, but because misery loves a captive audience. And the internet gives them a front row seat to an infinite stadium. And the worst part, even when it's not outright trolling, it's the casual apathy. Hey, can I vent for a second?
Yeah, go ahead.
I feel like absolute garbage. Nothing I do matters. And I feel totally invisible.
Damn, that sucks. Anyways, check out my new video that just dropped.
That second example hurts way more than hate. Pouring your actual soul out, admitting that you're drowning, only for the entire room to pivot back to focusing on themselves. Only seconds later. Some of us go to these places looking for a lifeline, and we end up serving as a pawn for someone else's game. And the issue with that is it changes how your brain works. When you spend all your formative years communicating exclusively through pixelated text boxes, you start to forget what an unscripted human interaction feels like. Real life is inconvenient. Real life has awkward pauses, stuttered words, conflicting body language, and messy emotional stakes. You can't hit backspace on a spoken sentence. You can't edit your face in real time. So what do? We retreat back to the safety of the internet. We curate these little digital ghosts of ourselves. We craft the perfect bio, the perfect aesthetic, the perfect ironic detachment so no one can ever hurt us. We log in. We broadcast our static. We collect our tiny little dopamine hits from the pixels lighting up on a glass grid. And we call it a social life. We become addicted to the availability of people without any of the obligation. You want the warmth of a friendship without having to show up when it's inconvenient. You want the validation of a crowd without having to look anyone in the eye. But it's a ghost town masquerading as a metropolis. And eventually, you hit a breaking point. You're sitting there in your room. It's 4 a.m. The glow of your monitor is casting a sickly blue light across your room. Your fingers are flying across the keyboard, typing out messages into 5 different group chats at once. You're laughing at emojis you don't care about, arguing with strangers whose username you'll forget by morning, and you stop. Just for a split second, the background noise cuts out. You realize you are entirely, profoundly alone in your room, full of glowing rectangles. We are starving to death at a feast of digital empty calories. We are terrified of the silence, terrified of the dark, terrified of our own thoughts, terrified that if we actually unplugged for 5 minutes, the world will keep spinning without us and no one will ever notice that we were gone. We thought we were exploring an infinite digital universe, but the scariest truth of all, the one we spend all night trying not to look at, is that the void isn't empty. It's talking back to us. And if you stay here long enough, scrolling through the infinite feeds, chasing the next dopamine spike, letting algorithms dictate your moods and strangers dictate your worth, you'll realize that the voice in the void has stopped sounding like a stranger. It's starting to sound dangerously close to your own voice, echoing back at you, hollowed out and automated. So maybe, just maybe, before we completely forget what the weight of the real world feels like, before we let ourselves get completely swallowed up by the endless glowing machine, maybe the bravest, most radical thing we can possibly do is finally turn off the device, let the screen go pitch black, tear our fingers away from the glass, and walk outside into the blinding, terrifying silence of the living world.